My husband's lover laughed and said, "He chose me because I'm better." She didn't know that she'd spend the next night alone, because I took everything he had. The shrill ring of my phone pierced the silence of the night, startling me awake. I fumbled for it on the nightstand, my heart already pounding with a sense of foreboding. The glare of the screen illuminated the darkness, and my blood ran cold as I read the message from an unknown number. "Hey Olivia, it's Sophia. Just thought you should know that your darling husband Mark is in my bed tonight. He chose me because I'm better than you in every way. Sucks to be you. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank each of you for being part of this incredible journey. If you're enjoying these stories of empowerment, consider subscribing. It's completely free and helps us build this amazing community. Let's dive in." For a moment I couldn't breathe. It felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room, replaced by a suffocating sense of betrayal and rage. Mark had sworn he was working late tonight, that he was on the verge of a big break in his case. But now the bitter truth was laid bare before me. He wasn't burning the midnight oil at the office. He was tangled in the sheets with another woman, a woman who had the audacity to flaunt their affair in my face. Tears stung my eyes as I gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. Questions swirled in my mind, each one more painful than the last. How long had this been going on behind my back? Did our friends know, whispering and laughing at poor clueless Olivia? Was every kiss, every touch, every "I love you" just a lie, a meaningless platitude to keep me complacent while he sought his thrills elsewhere? But even as despair threatened to engulf me, a spark of fury ignited in my gut. It burned through the haze of pain and humiliation, searing away the last vestiges of the meek, trusting wife I had once been. How dare this woman, this Sophia, contact me like this? How dare she revel in my misery, taunting me with her supposed superiority? And how dare Mark, the man I had given my heart and soul to, betray me so callously after all the years we had shared? In that moment, as I sat there with my world crumbling around me, something inside me snapped. The hurt and disbelief hardened into a cold, unyielding resolve. I refused to be a victim, to slink away licking my wounds while they carried on without a care. No, I would make them pay for every ounce of pain they had inflicted upon me. I would show them the true meaning of consequences. My fingers flew across the screen as I typed out my response. "Enjoy it while it lasts, Sophia. After tonight you'll be spending plenty of nights alone. Because I'm going to take everything from him and there'll be nothing left for you." I hit send with a grim sense of satisfaction, imagining the smug smirk fading from her lips as she read my words. They had no idea who they were dealing with, no inkling of the depths I was willing to sink to in the name of retribution. I tossed the phone aside and swung my legs over the edge of the bed, my mind already whirring with the beginnings of a plan. I would hire the most ruthless divorce attorney in the city, someone who wouldn't flinch at the idea of leaving Mark with nothing but the clothes on his back. I would freeze our joint accounts and hide away every penny he thought was his. And as for Sophia, I would dig up every skeleton in her closet, every dirty secret she thought was buried. I would make sure her precious reputation was left in tatters, her name synonymous with scandal and shame. As I padded across the bedroom floor, the same floor where Mark and I had once danced on our wedding night, drunk on love and promise, a chilling calmness settled over me. The woman I had been, the woman who had believed in the fairy tale of happily ever after, was gone. In her place stood someone harder, colder, more calculating. Someone who wouldn't rest until she had taken back everything they had stolen from her. I flicked on the light and caught sight of my reflection in the mirror. My eyes were red-rimmed and puffy, but there was a steely glint in them that had never been there before. I almost didn't recognize the woman staring back at me, but perhaps that was for the best. The old Olivia was too soft, too naive to do what needed to be done. I drew in a deep, steadying breath and squared my shoulders. There was no turning back now. Mark and Sophia had started this war, but I would be the one to finish it. And when the dust settled, they would learn the hard way that no one, absolutely no one, crossed Olivia Martinez and came out unscathed. With a final nod at my reflection, I strode out of the bedroom, ready to set my plan in motion. They wanted to play dirty? Well, they had no idea just how filthy I could get. And by the time I was through with them, they would rue the day they ever dared to underestimate me. The first rays of dawn were just beginning to peek through the curtains as I sat at the kitchen table, a steaming mug of coffee clutched between my hands. I hadn't slept a wink since Sophia's text had shattered my world, my mind too consumed with the details of my plan for revenge. I knew I couldn't confront Mark and Sophia with nothing but my own suspicions and hurt feelings. I needed concrete proof of their affair, something undeniable that I could use to destroy them both. And for that I needed help. I reached for my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I was looking for. Jack Reeves, private investigator. I had met Jack years ago when he had helped a friend of mine through a nasty divorce. He was known for his discretion, his thoroughness, and his willingness to bend the rules when necessary. I took a deep breath and hit the call button. Jack picked up on the second ring, his gruff voice already alert despite the early hour. Reeves Investigations. How can I help you? Jack, it's Olivia Martinez. I need your help. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Olivia? Mark's wife? What's going on? I swallowed hard, the words sticking in my throat. Mark's cheating on me, Jack. With some woman named Sophia. I need you to find out everything you can about their affair. I need proof. Jack let out a low whistle. Damn, Olivia. I'm sorry to hear that. Don't worry, I'll get to the bottom of it. Do you have any information on this Sophia? A last name, where she works, anything like that? I racked my brain trying to recall any details Mark might have mentioned in passing. I think her last name is Russo. And I'm pretty sure she works at the same law firm as Mark. That's all I know. That's a good start, Jack said. I'll start digging into her background, see what I can find. In the meantime, I'll have one of my guys tail Mark, see if he can catch them in the act. We'll get the evidence you need, Olivia. I promise. I felt a flicker of hope at Jack's reassurance. Thank you, Jack. I appreciate it more than you know. Hey, that's what I'm here for. We'll make that bastard pay for what he's done. You just sit tight and let me handle it. I ended the call, feeling a sense of grim satisfaction. With Jack on the case, it was only a matter of time before I had the ammunition I needed to blow Mark and Sophia's affair wide open. But I couldn't just sit back and wait for Jack to work his magic. I had my own digging to do. I needed to know everything about Sophia Russo, every dirty little secret she had ever tried to hide. I powered up my laptop and began my search, my fingertips flying over the keys. Social media profiles, online records, even the depths of the dark web. No stone would be left unturned. If there was a skeleton in Sophia's closet, I would find it. Hours passed as I lost myself in the hunt, the outside world fading away until there was nothing but the glow of the screen and the thrum of my own heartbeat in my ears. Piece by piece, a picture began to emerge of the woman who had stolen my husband. On the surface, Sophia seemed like the perfect woman. Beautiful, accomplished, well-respected in her field. But as I delved deeper, cracks began to show in that flawless facade. There were whispers of an affair with a married partner at her previous law firm, rumors of shady deals and cutthroat tactics to get ahead. It seemed Sophia Russo was no stranger to playing dirty to get what she wanted. A slow smile spread across my face as I leaned back in my chair, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. Sophia had no idea who she was messing with. She thought she could swoop in and steal my life without consequence. But she had underestimated me. And that would be her downfall. I glanced at the clock, realizing with a start that it was already late afternoon. I had been so consumed with my investigation that the hours had flown by unnoticed. But I couldn't afford to waste any more time. I had to move on to the next phase of my plan. I reached for my phone once more, scrolling through my contacts until I found the name I was looking for. Emma Novak, my best friend since childhood and the one person I knew I could trust with my darkest secrets. I hit the call button and waited, my heart hammering in my chest. Emma picked up on the first ring, her voice warm and familiar. Liv, I was just thinking about you. How are you doing? I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation to come. I need your help. Mark's been cheating on me and I'm going to make him and his mistress pay. But I can't do it alone. There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end of the line. Then, in a voice laced with equal parts shock and fury, Emma spoke. That son of a bitch. I always knew there was something off about him. What do you need me to do, Liv? I'm here for you no matter what. I felt a rush of gratitude at Emma's unwavering support. With her by my side and Jack on the case, I knew I could face whatever lay ahead. Meet me at our usual spot in an hour, I said. We have a lot to discuss. As I ended the call and grabbed my keys, I felt a sense of purpose settle over me. The pieces were falling into place, the players assembling on the board. And when the time was right, I would strike with a vengeance that would leave Mark and Sophia reeling. They had no idea what was coming for them, but they would soon learn the price of betrayal. And I would be the one to teach them that lesson no matter the cost. The cafe was bustling with the lunchtime crowd as I slid into the booth across from Emma. She was already waiting for me, her eyes wide with concern and a steaming latte cradled between her hands. "Okay, spill," she said without preamble. "Tell me everything." I took a deep breath and let the whole sordid story pour out. The late nights, the distant behavior, and finally the gloating text from Sophia that had shattered my world. Emma listened in growing horror, her face a mask of shock and fury. "That bastard," she hissed when I had finished. "And that Sophia sounds like a real piece of work. What are you going to do, Liv?" I leaned forward, my voice low and intense. "I'm going to make them pay him. I've already hired a private investigator to dig up dirt on their affair. But I need more than just evidence. I need to hit them where it hurts." Emma nodded slowly, her brow furrowed in thought. "You need to protect yourself first, Liv. Have you thought about talking to a lawyer?" I shook my head. "Not yet. But I know I need to. I can't let Mark blindside me with a divorce filing. I need to be one step ahead." "I might know someone who can help," Emma said slowly. "My cousin Audrey is a divorce attorney in the city. She's a real shark in the courtroom. If anyone can make sure you come out on top, it's her." I felt a flicker of hope at Emma's words. "Can you set up a meeting? I need to talk to her as soon as possible." "Consider it done," Emma said, already pulling out her phone. "I'll text you her information as soon as I have it." I reached across the table and squeezed Emma's hand, feeling a rush of gratitude for her unwavering support. "Thank you, Em. I don't know what I'd do without you." Emma smiled, her eyes fierce with determination. "That's what best friends are for, Liv. We'll get through this together. And we'll make sure Mark and Sophia regret the day they ever crossed you." 2 days later, I found myself sitting in the plush office of Audrey Novak, divorce attorney extraordinaire. She was a striking woman in her early 40s, with sharp blue eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor that immediately put me at ease. "Emma filled me in on your situation," Audrey said, cutting straight to the chase. "I'm sorry you're going through this, Olivia. But I promise you we'll make sure you come out of this divorce with everything you're entitled to." I nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. "What do I need to do?" Audrey leaned forward, her expression serious. "The first thing we need to do is secure your financial future. I'll need access to all of your joint accounts and assets. We'll need to move quickly to freeze Mark's access and protect your share." I swallowed hard, the reality of the situation hitting me anew. "I can get you that information. But what about Mark's hidden assets? I know he has money and accounts that I don't know about." Audrey's eyes narrowed. "Leave that to me. I have a forensic accountant on retainer who specializes in tracking down hidden assets in divorce cases. We'll leave no stone unturned, Olivia. You have my word." I felt a sense of grim satisfaction at Audrey's assurance. Mark thought he was so clever hiding away his little nest egg. But he had underestimated me. And with Audrey on my side, he wouldn't know what hit him. "There's one more thing," I said slowly. "I want to make sure Sophia doesn't come out of this unscathed. She needs to pay for what she's done." Audrey nodded, a glint of steel in her eyes. "I have some ideas on that front. Leave Sophia to me, Olivia. By the time I'm through with her, she'll wish she never set eyes on your husband." I left Audrey's office feeling lighter than I had in days, a sense of purpose and determination filling me. With Jack digging up dirt on the affair, Audrey securing my financial future, and Emma by my side, I finally felt like I had a fighting chance. But even as I walked out into the bright sunlight, I knew there was one more piece of the puzzle I needed to put in place. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I was looking for. Dr. Amanda Hansen, my therapist and confidant for the past 5 years. I hesitated for a moment, my thumb hovering over the call button. I had always prided myself on being strong, on handling my problems on my own. But Emma's words from the cafe echoed in my mind. I needed to protect myself not just financially but emotionally as well. I took a deep breath and hit the button, feeling a sense of relief as Dr. Hansen's warm voice filled the line. "Olivia, what a pleasant surprise. What can I do for you today?" I closed my eyes, fighting back the tears that threatened to fall. "Dr. Hansen, I need your help. Mark's been cheating on me and I'm struggling to cope. I need to talk to someone before I do something I regret." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. Then, in a voice filled with compassion and understanding, Dr. Hansen spoke. I'm so sorry, Olivia. Of course I'm here for you. Why don't you come in tomorrow morning and we can talk through everything? We'll come up with a plan to help you process your emotions in a healthy way. I felt a rush of gratitude at Dr. Hansen's words. Thank you, Dr. Hansen. I'll see you tomorrow. As I ended the call and slipped my phone back into my pocket, I felt a sense of calm settle over me. I had all the pieces in place now. The investigator, the lawyer, the accountant, and now the therapist. I was ready to face whatever lay ahead. Mark and Sophia thought they could break me, that they could shatter my world and walk away unscathed. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. I was Olivia Martinez and I was done being a victim. I squared my shoulders and strode down the sidewalk, my head held high. The game was on and I was playing to win. And when the dust settled, Mark and Sophia would learn the true cost of betrayal. The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity as my team and I worked tirelessly to set the stage for my revenge. Jack's investigation was yielding fruit, providing me with a wealth of evidence of Mark and Sophia's affair. Photographs of clandestine meetings, recordings of intimate phone calls, even a video of them entering a hotel room together. It was all there, laid out in black and white. But I knew that evidence alone wouldn't be enough. I needed to catch them in the act, to confront them with their betrayal in a way that left no room for doubt or denial. And for that I needed to set a trap. I pored over the evidence Jack had gathered, looking for patterns, for any hint of where and when they might meet next. And then I found it. A text message from Sophia to Mark, suggesting a rendezvous at a secluded cabin in the woods, a place where they could be alone, away from prying eyes. I felt a thrill of anticipation as I read the message, my mind already racing with the possibilities. This was it, the perfect opportunity to catch them red-handed. I reached for my phone and dialed Jack's number, my heart pounding with excitement. He picked up on the first ring, his voice gruff and businesslike. Reeves. Jack, it's Olivia. I found something. A text message from Sophia mentioning a cabin in the woods. I think that's where they're planning to meet next. I could hear the smile in Jack's voice as he replied. Good work, Olivia. Send me the details and I'll have my team stake out the place. We'll catch them in the act and we'll make sure we get it all on camera. I felt a rush of gratitude at Jack's words. Thank you, Jack. I don't know what I'd do without you. Thank me when it's over, Jack said. We've still got work to do. I ended the call and leaned back in my chair, a slow smile spreading across my face. The pieces were falling into place. Soon Mark and Sophia would have nowhere to hide. But catching them in the act was only half the battle. I knew that I needed to hit them where it hurt, in their pockets and their reputations. And for that I needed to enlist some help. Sophie's husband, Derek, was a high-powered executive at a major corporation. A man who, according to Emma's research, valued his image and his reputation above all else. I arranged to meet Derek for coffee at an upscale cafe downtown. I watched as he walked in, tall and handsome in a tailored suit, his eyes scanning the room with a predatory gleam. I stood to greet him, plastering a smile on my face. Derek, thank you for meeting with me. He shook my hand, his grip firm and confident. I have to admit I was intrigued by your message, Olivia. What's this all about? I leaned forward, my voice low and conspiratorial. It's about your wife, Derek. I have reason to believe she hasn't been faithful to you. I watched as Derek's face darkened, his jaw clenching with barely suppressed rage. What are you talking about? I slid a folder across the table, watching as he flipped it open to reveal the photographs of Sophia and Mark, caught in intimate embraces. She's been having an affair with my husband, Derek. For months now. Derek's hands shook as he flipped through the photographs, his face a mask of shock and betrayal. I can't believe it. That lying bitch. I reached across the table and laid a hand on his arm, my voice soft and sympathetic. I know how you feel, Derek. Betrayed. Humiliated. But we can make them pay for what they've done. Derek's eyes snapped up to meet mine, a glint of steel in their depths. What do you have in mind? I smiled, feeling a thrill of satisfaction at the anger and determination in his voice. Meet me at this address tomorrow night, I said, sliding a piece of paper across the table. And bring your camera. We're going to catch them in the act. The cabin was dark and quiet as I crept through the trees, my heart pounding in my chest. Beside me, Derek and Jack moved with the stealth and precision of trained professionals, their cameras at the ready. We had been watching the cabin for hours, waiting for the right moment to strike. And then, just as the sun began to set, we saw them. Mark and Sophia stumbling out of a car, their hands all over each other as they made their way up the steps and into the cabin. I felt a rush of adrenaline as we moved closer, our cameras trained on the windows. And then we saw it. Mark and Sophia tangled together on the bed, lost in the throes of passion. I watched as Derek's face contorted with rage, his hands shaking as he snapped picture after picture. Beside him, Jack's expression was one of grim satisfaction as he captured every moment of their betrayal on film. And then just as they reached the peak of their passion, we burst through the door, cameras flashing, voices raised in accusation. I watched as Mark and Sophia scrambled to cover themselves, their faces pale with shock and fear. And then I stepped forward, my voice cold and hard. Well. What do we have here? Mark's mouth fell open, his eyes wide with horror as he stared at me. Olivia? What are you doing here? I smiled, feeling a sense of triumph wash over me. I think the question is, Mark, what are you doing here? With her. Sophia clutched the sheets to her chest, her eyes darting frantically between me and Derek. Derek? Oh God, I can explain. But Derek's face was a mask of fury as he advanced on her, his camera still trained on her face. Save it, you lying bitch. I've seen enough. I watched as Mark and Sophia crumbled under the weight of our accusations, their excuses and explanations falling on deaf ears. And as we walked out of that cabin, the evidence of their betrayal captured on film, I felt a sense of satisfaction wash over me. They had thought they could break me, that they could shatter my world and walk away unscathed. But they had underestimated me. And now they would pay the price for their betrayal. The trap had been set. And Mark and Sophia had walked right into it. Now all that was left was to watch as their world came crashing down around them, just as mine had done. They wanted to play dirty, I thought to myself as I walked out into the night, a smile on my face. Well, they had no idea what they had unleashed. And by the time this game was over, there would be no doubt about who had emerged victorious. The silence in the room was deafening as Mark and Sophia sat across from me, their faces pale and drawn. Derek stood beside me, his arms crossed and his eyes hard as he glared at his wife. I placed the folder of evidence on the table between us, watching as Mark's eyes widened in recognition. I think you know what this is, I said, my voice cold and steady. Mark swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing in his throat. Olivia, I can explain. I held up a hand, cutting him off mid-sentence. Save it, Mark. I've heard enough of your lies to last a lifetime. I turned to Sophia, my eyes narrowing as I took in the fear and guilt etched across her face. And you thought you could just waltz into my life, steal my husband and get away with it? You thought you were better than me? Sophia shook her head frantically, tears streaming down her face. No, Olivia, it's not like that. I never meant to hurt you. I laughed, the sound harsh and bitter in the quiet room. Well, you did. You both did. And now you're going to pay the price. I reached into my bag and pulled out a stack of papers, tossing them onto the table. Divorce papers, Mark. I've already filed. And thanks to my lawyer, I'm taking everything. The house, the car, the bank accounts. Everything you thought was yours. Mark's face drained of color as he stared at the papers, his hands trembling as he reached for them. Olivia, please. Don't do this. We can work it out. I shook my head, feeling a sense of grim satisfaction wash over me. It's too late for that, Mark. You made your choice when you betrayed me. And now you get to live with the consequences. I turned to Sophia, my lips curling into a sneer. And as for you, I've already spoken to your boss. Showed him the evidence of your little embezzlement scheme. You're finished, Sophia. You'll be lucky if you don't end up in jail. Sophia's face crumpled, her body shaking with sobs as she buried her face in her hands. Please, Olivia. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I was unmoved by her tears, my heart hardened by the pain and betrayal she had inflicted upon me. It's too late for apologies, Sophia. You should have thought about that before you decided to destroy my life. I stood up, feeling a sense of triumph wash over me. I hope it was worth it, you two. I hope your little fling was worth everything you've lost. Because from where I'm standing, you've got nothing left. I turned to Derek, nodding towards the door. Come on, Derek. We're done here. Derek nodded, his face set with grim determination as he followed me out of the room. But as we stepped out into the hallway, I heard Mark's voice behind me, desperate and pleading. Olivia, wait. Please. I love you. I never meant to hurt you. I paused, feeling a flicker of doubt wash over me. But then I remembered the pain and humiliation of that night, the gloating text from Sophia that had shattered my world. And I knew that there was no going back. I turned to face him, my voice cold and hard. "You don't get to say that to me anymore, Mark. You lost that right the moment you chose her over me." And with that I walked away, feeling a sense of finality wash over me. It was over. I had won. The next few weeks passed in a blur as the fallout from the confrontation began to take hold. Just as I had predicted, Sophia was fired from her job, her reputation in tatters as the news of her embezzlement and affair spread like wildfire. Derek filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and infidelity. And as the details of their sordid affair came to light, Sophia found herself shunned by her friends and family, a pariah in the very circles she had once dominated. But it was Mark who suffered the most. With the divorce papers filed and the evidence of his betrayal laid bare, he found himself ostracized by our once shared social circle. Whispers followed him wherever he went, his once sterling reputation tarnished by the stain of his infidelity. And as the dust began to settle, I watched with a sense of grim satisfaction as he moved out of our once shared home, his belongings packed into a few measly boxes. The house that we had once filled with love and laughter now stood empty and hollow, a testament to the life we had once shared. But even as I reveled in my victory, I couldn't shake the sense of unease that had begun to creep over me. In my quest for revenge, I had become someone I barely recognized. Someone cold and calculating, willing to go to any lengths to make those who had wronged me pay. And as I lay awake at night, staring at the empty space beside me where Mark had once slept, I couldn't help but wonder if it had all been worth it. If the price of my vengeance hadn't been too high. But then I would remember the pain and humiliation of that night, the gloating text from Sophia that had shattered my world. And I would feel a renewed sense of purpose wash over me. They had brought this upon themselves, I told myself. They had chosen to betray me, to break the vows we had made before God and man. And now they were paying the price for their choices. But even as I tried to convince myself that I had done the right thing, I couldn't shake the sense of unease that had begun to take hold. The sense that, in my quest for revenge, I had lost something of myself along the way. And as I lay there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling and listening to the sounds of the empty house around me, I couldn't help but wonder what the future held. If the price of my vengeance hadn't been too high after all. But one thing was certain. Mark and Sophia had underestimated me. They had thought they could shatter my world and walk away unscathed. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. And as I closed my eyes and drifted off to sleep, I knew that I would never let anyone make me feel that helpless, that powerless, ever again. No matter the cost. The weeks turned into months as I watched Mark and Sophia's lives unravel before my eyes. Just as I had predicted, the fallout from their affair was swift and merciless, leaving them both shattered and broken in its wake. Sophia was the first to fall. With the evidence of her embezzlement and misconduct laid bare, she found herself fired from her job, her once promising career in tatters. Her friends and colleagues turned their backs on her, their whispers and stares following her wherever she went. But it was the loss of her husband that seemed to hit her the hardest. Derek's divorce filing was swift and brutal, his lawyers leaving no stone unturned as they sought to sever all ties with her. In the end, Sophia walked away with nothing but the clothes on her back and the shame of her actions. I watched as she spiraled into despair, her once perfect facade crumbling away to reveal the broken woman beneath. She became a ghost of her former self, haunting the streets of our town like a wraith, her eyes hollow and her spirit crushed. But even as I reveled in her misery, I couldn't help but feel a flicker of pity for her. She had made her choices, yes, but the price she had paid for them seemed almost too high to bear. Mark, on the other hand, seemed to weather the storm with a bit more grace. Though he too found himself ostracized by our once shared social circle, he seemed to take it in stride, his head held high even as the whispers and stares followed him wherever he went. But I knew the truth. I saw the pain and regret etched into the lines of his face, the hollow look in his eyes when he thought no one was watching. He had lost everything, his wife, his home, his reputation, and it was all because of the choices he had made. In the end, the divorce settlement was a mere formality. With the evidence of his infidelity laid bare, Mark had no leg to stand on. He walked away with a fraction of what he had once had, his once comfortable lifestyle reduced to a shadow of its former self. And as I watched him pack up the last of his belongings and move out of our once shared home, I felt a sense of triumph wash over me. I had won. I had taken everything from him just as he had taken everything from me. But even as I reveled in my victory, I couldn't shake the sense of emptiness that had begun to take hold. The house that had once been filled with love and laughter now stood silent and still, a monument to the life we had once shared. And as I wandered through its empty rooms, my footsteps echoing off the bare walls, I couldn't help but feel a sense of loss wash over me. In my quest for revenge, I had lost something too. The life I had once known, the woman I had once been. But I pushed those thoughts aside, steeling myself against the doubts that threatened to creep in. I had come too far to turn back now, had sacrificed too much to let the ghosts of my past haunt me. And so I threw myself into my new life with a vengeance, determined to build something better, something stronger from the ashes of what had been. I traveled the world, immersing myself in new cultures and experiences, seeking out the beauty and wonder that had once seemed so far out of reach. I made new friends, forged new connections, and slowly but surely I began to heal. The scars of my past would always be with me, a reminder of the pain and betrayal I had endured. But I refused to let them define me, to let them hold me back from the life I knew I deserved. And as the months turned into years, I found myself growing stronger, more confident with each passing day. I had emerged from the ashes of my old life like a phoenix, my wings spread wide and my heart open to the possibilities that lay ahead. But even as I embraced my new life, I knew that I would never forget the lessons I had learned. The price of betrayal, the cost of revenge, these were things that would stay with me always, a reminder of the woman I had once been and the woman I had become. And though the pain of my past would never truly fade, I knew that I had the strength to face whatever lay ahead. I had survived the worst that life had to offer, had emerged from the flames stronger and more resilient than ever before. And as I looked out at the world before me, my eyes clear and my heart full, I knew that I was ready for whatever the future might bring. For I was Olivia Martinez, a survivor, a warrior, a woman who had taken back her life and her power no matter the cost. And I knew that nothing and no one could ever take that away from me again. The sun was setting over the city skyline as I stepped out onto the balcony of my new penthouse apartment, a glass of wine in my hand and a sense of peace in my heart. It had been a year since the confrontation with Mark and Sophia, a year since I had watched their lives crumble before my eyes. And in that time I had rebuilt my life from the ground up, had carved out a new path for myself that was all my own. I sipped my wine, savoring the crisp, cool taste on my tongue as I gazed out at the city below. The lights were just beginning to twinkle in the twilight, a sea of glittering stars stretching out before me as far as the eye could see. It was a beautiful sight, one that never failed to take my breath away. But even as I reveled in its beauty, I couldn't shake the sense of unease that had begun to creep over me in recent months. In the aftermath of my revenge, I had thrown myself into my new life with a vengeance, had sought to fill the void left behind by Mark's betrayal with material possessions and superficial pleasures. I had bought the penthouse, the flashy sports car, the designer clothes and jewelry that had once seemed so out of reach. And for a time it had worked. The thrill of the purchase, the rush of adrenaline that came with each new acquisition, had been enough to keep the ghosts of my past at bay. But as the months wore on, I began to realize that the emptiness inside me was still there, lurking just beneath the surface. I had thought that revenge would bring me peace, that making Mark and Sophia pay for what they had done would somehow heal the wounds they had inflicted. But as I stood there on that balcony, my heart heavy with the weight of my choices, I realized that I had been wrong. Revenge had brought me satisfaction, yes, but it had not brought me joy. It had not filled the void left behind by their betrayal, had not healed the scars that their actions had left upon my heart. And as I gazed out at the city before me, the twinkling lights blurring together into a haze of color and light, I knew that I had to find another way. I had to learn to let go of the anger and bitterness that had consumed me for so long, had to find a way to move forward that didn't involve destroying everything in my path. It was a daunting prospect, one that filled me with a sense of fear and uncertainty. But I knew that I had no choice. I had to try, had to find a way to heal the wounds that had been inflicted upon me no matter how long it took. And so I made a decision right there on that balcony with the city stretched out before me and the stars twinkling overhead. I would sell the penthouse, the car, all the trappings of my newfound wealth. I would use the money to travel, to explore the world and all its wonders, to find the peace and healing that had eluded me for so long. It was a risk, I knew, a leap of faith into the unknown. But I also knew that it was a risk I had to take. I had to find a way to move forward, to leave the ghosts of my past behind and embrace the possibilities of the future. And as I stood there on that balcony, my heart full of hope and determination, I knew that I was ready for whatever lay ahead. I had survived the worst that life had to offer, had emerged from the flames stronger and more resilient than ever before. And though the scars of my past would always be with me, a reminder of the pain and betrayal I had endured, I knew that I had the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For I was Olivia Martinez, a survivor, a warrior, a woman who had taken back her life and her power no matter the cost. And I knew that nothing and no one could ever take that away from me again. The sun was just beginning to peek over the horizon as I stepped off the plane and onto the tarmac, my heart full of anticipation and excitement for the journey that lay ahead. I had been traveling for months now, exploring the far corners of the world in search of the peace and healing that had eluded me for so long. And with each new destination, each new experience, I could feel the weight of my past beginning to lift, the scars of my betrayal slowly beginning to fade. I had seen the sun rise over the ancient temples of Cambodia, had watched it set behind the snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas. I had walked the cobblestone streets of Paris, had danced the night away in the pulsing clubs of Berlin. And with each new adventure, each new moment of wonder and discovery, I could feel myself beginning to heal, beginning to rediscover the woman I had once been, the woman I had thought lost forever in the aftermath of Mark's betrayal. But even as I reveled in my newfound freedom, even as I embraced the possibilities of the future with open arms, I knew that I could never truly forget the pain of my past. The scars of my betrayal, the wounds inflicted upon me by those I had once loved and trusted, would always be a part of me, a reminder of the woman I had been and the woman I had become. And as I stood there on that tarmac, my heart full of hope and determination, I knew that I had to find a way to honor that pain, to use it as a source of strength and resilience in the face of whatever challenges lay ahead. And so I made a promise to myself, right there in that moment, with the sun rising over the horizon and the world stretched out before me. I would never forget the lessons I had learned, the price I had paid for my vengeance. I would never again allow myself to be consumed by anger and bitterness, to let the ghosts of my past control the course of my future. But I would also never forget the woman I had been, the woman who had loved and lost and fought like hell to take back what was rightfully hers. I would honor her strength, her resilience, her unwavering determination to forge a new path for herself, no matter the cost. And as I stepped out into the waiting world, my heart full of hope and my head held high, I knew that I was ready for whatever lay ahead. I had survived the worst that life had to offer, had emerged from the flames stronger and more resilient than ever before. And though the scars of my past would always be with me, a reminder of the pain and betrayal I had endured, I knew that I had the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For I was Olivia Martinez, a survivor, a warrior, a woman who had taken back her life and her power no matter the cost. And I knew that nothing and no one could ever take that away from me again. As I made my way through the crowded streets of the city, my heart full of excitement and anticipation for the journey that lay ahead, I knew that I had finally found the peace and healing I had been searching for. It had taken time, had required me to confront the darkest parts of myself and the deepest wounds of my past. But in the end it had been worth it. For I had emerged from the ashes of my old life stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. I had learned to let go of the anger and bitterness that had once consumed me, had learned to embrace the beauty and wonder of the world with an open heart and a curious mind. And though the scars of my past would always be with me, a reminder of the pain and betrayal I had endured, I knew that I had the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For I was Olivia Martinez, a survivor, a warrior, a woman who had taken back her life and her power no matter the cost. And as I walked out into the waiting world, my heart full of hope and my head held high, I knew that I was ready for whatever lay ahead. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly free, truly alive, truly ready to embrace the possibilities of the future with open arms. For I had finally learned the most important lesson of all, that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the courage to rebuild, to remember, and to heal. And that was a lesson I would carry with me always, no matter where my journey might take me next. As the months turned into years, I found myself settling into a new rhythm of life, one that was entirely my own. I had left behind the trappings of my old existence, the penthouse, the flashy car, the designer clothes and jewelry, and had embraced a simpler way of being, one that prioritized experiences over possessions and growth over stagnation. I continued to travel, exploring new corners of the world and immersing myself in new cultures and ways of life. But I also began to put down roots, to build a new home for myself that was based not on the expectations of others, but on my own deepest desires and values. I started a support group for women who had been through similar experiences of betrayal and heartbreak, creating a safe space for us to share our stories and support one another on the path to healing. It was a deeply meaningful experience, one that allowed me to connect with others who understood the depth of my pain and the strength of my resilience. Through those connections, I began to see the power of vulnerability, the way that sharing our stories and our struggles could create bonds of empathy and understanding that transcended the superficial differences that so often divided us. And I began to see my own journey in a new light, not as a source of shame or weakness, but as a testament to my own incredible strength and resilience. As I continued to heal and grow, I found myself drawn to new passions and pursuits, ones that allowed me to channel my energy and my creativity in meaningful ways. I took up painting and writing, pouring my heart and soul into each brushstroke and each word, and found a sense of joy and fulfillment that I had never known before. And through it all, I never forgot the lessons I had learned, the price I had paid for my vengeance and the scars I would always carry as a result. But I also learned to see those scars in a new light, not as a source of shame or weakness, but as a testament to my own incredible strength and resilience. I learned to embrace my own imperfections, to see the beauty and the power in my own vulnerability and to trust in my own ability to heal and to grow, no matter what challenges life might throw my way. And I learned to let go of the anger and the bitterness that had once consumed me, to forgive myself for the choices I had made and to move forward with an open heart and a curious mind. As the years passed, I found myself looking back on my journey with a sense of pride and gratitude, knowing that every step, every struggle, every moment of pain and triumph had been a necessary part of my own growth and evolution. And I knew that I would never again let myself be defined by the actions of others, that I would never again give anyone else the power to dictate my own worth or my own happiness. Instead, I would define my own path, my own purpose, my own destiny, and I would do so with the kind of fierce determination and unshakable resilience that had carried me through the darkest moments of my life. I would embrace my own strength and my own power, and I would use them to create a life that was truly my own, one that was filled with joy and meaning and purpose. And as I looked out at the world before me, my heart full of hope and my head held high, I knew that I was ready for whatever lay ahead. I had survived the worst that life had to offer, had emerged from the flames stronger and more resilient than ever before. And I knew that nothing and no one could ever take that away from me again. For I was Olivia Martinez, a survivor, a warrior, a woman who had taken back her life and her power no matter the cost. And I knew that my journey was far from over, that there were still new adventures to be had, new challenges to be faced, new opportunities for growth and transformation waiting just around the corner. But I also knew that I was ready for whatever lay ahead, that I had the strength and the courage and the resilience to face it all with an open heart and a curious mind. And I knew that no matter what the future might hold, I would always have the love and support of the incredible women who had become my sisters on this journey, the ones who had held my hand and wiped my tears and reminded me of my own incredible strength and beauty, even in my darkest moments. And so I stepped out into the world, my heart full of gratitude and my spirit full of hope, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead with the kind of fierce determination and unshakable resilience that had carried me through the darkest moments of my life. For I knew that I was not alone, that I was part of a sisterhood of survivors, of warriors, of women who had taken back their lives and their power no matter the cost. And I knew that together we could face anything, that we could overcome any obstacle, that we could heal any wound and create any future we desired. For we were strong, we were resilient, we were unstoppable. And we would never again let anyone take that away from us. And so ends the story of Olivia Martinez, the woman who turned her pain into power, her scars into strength, and her betrayal into a catalyst for growth and transformation. Hers is a story of resilience, of courage, of the unshakable human spirit that refuses to be broken, no matter how great the odds or how deep the wounds. It is a reminder that even in our darkest moments, there is always hope, always the possibility of healing and renewal and rebirth. And it is a testament to the incredible strength and beauty of the human heart, to its ability to love and to forgive, to heal and to grow no matter what challenges life might throw our way. May we all find the courage to embrace our own journeys, to face our own darkest moments with the same fierce determination and unshakable resilience that carried Olivia through hers. And may we all emerge from the flames stronger, wiser, and more compassionate than ever before, ready to create a world that is more just, more loving, and more beautiful than the one we inherited. For that is the true legacy of Olivia's story, the true power of her journey from betrayal to healing to triumph. And it is a legacy that belongs to us all, a reminder that no matter how dark the night may seem, the dawn is always waiting just around the corner, ready to light our way home.